everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the organizers for having us on the panel and inviting us. My name is Hayg Oshagan. I'm a professor at Wayne State University and a founder and director of New Michigan Media. So what we thought we'd do as we discussed this panel with the summit organizers was to have a conversation about what a collaboration in this case looks like, what an ethnic minority media collaboration looks like, and talk about maybe the reasons why our collaboration has survived for as long as it has. We've been together for, it's been almost 15 years now. And collaborations sometimes have a hard time succeeding, but we've been able to keep going, and we've been able to reap rewards from the association with each other in many different ways. So before I get into New Michigan Media, first let me introduce everyone. So from my left is Osama Siblani, publisher of the Arab American News, the largest Arabic newspaper not only in Michigan, but in the diaspora, Arab diaspora, I think, right, Osama? Next to Osama is Iqbal Hussain, who publishes the Bangla Shangbad, the only Bangladeshi paper in this region. And at the end of the panel is Elias Gutierrez, who publishes the Latino Press, which is the largest Latino paper in this region. Not with us today are other members of New Michigan Media that could not make it today, including Tak Young Kim, who is the publisher of the Michigan Korean Weekly, that serves the Korean community, and also Marnie Raitt, who is the managing editor and director of the Detroit Jewish News, which is the largest Jewish newspaper in Michigan and serves the Jewish community. We also collaborate with the Michigan Chronicle, which is the African American paper, the largest one in this region, as well as occasionally with the Native News Online, which is the second largest native news organization in the US, and it's based in Grand Rapids, but we work on various projects with the Native News Online. Beyond this group, Michigan has about 130 or 140 minority media outlets, including tribal newspapers up north. And we have a list of that network, and when the occasion requires it, we get in touch with any of those papers from here all the way up to Marquette to work on projects, the most recent one being the census, where we worked with 100 different media outlets across the state on the census. Let me give you a quick rundown on New Michigan Media, and then I'm going to ask each of the publishers to talk about their paper a bit and what the collaboration means to them as well. There were a few reasons for creating New Michigan Media. The first was that we, as minorities, often live in our own silos as community members. That is, the communities don't know of one another. And it's from the outside looking in, sometimes people say it's all minorities, but in reality, the Latinos don't interact with the Arab Americans, who don't interact with the Asian Americans, who don't interact with the African Americans, and so we often live in our own silos. And New Michigan Media, by collaborating with the leaders in the communities through the publishers, was a way of breaking down those internal silos and getting to know one another and finding ways to work together to strengthen community relevant issues to the communities. The second reason was that our voices are often not heard in the conversations in the region. That is, lots of decisions were being made in Michigan, in the Detroit area in particular, over the last 10, 15 years. And each individually is well known, but as a collective, our voice is much louder. And we are able to take part in the conversations that go on in this region and bring community concerns to bear in regional conversations and regional decision making. The third reason is advocacy. This is a fine line between journalism and advocacy, but we don't apologize for it and we don't shy away from it either. These publishers are the voices for their communities internally and to the external world. They are advocates for what matters to them and their constituents. And so in that way, as we combine forces across all of these communities, we have a much stronger political advocacy voice than we would have otherwise individually have had. And finally, it helps with journalism. It helps write stories better. It helps to share resources. It helps financially with potential for grants. It helps on that front as well to work together. So we'll go into all of these topics as we discuss today what New Michigan Media has been able to do. And then we'll take questions at the end too. But let me start with Osama. Maybe introduce your paper, your community, and a bit about how you see New Michigan Media working.
Well, thank you, Hayg. And we appreciate your effort in making this project a successful one. I personally have tried before several times with other newspapers to form an ethnic publisher association, 1990 and 1996. But it did not work. It wasn't the right time, I guess, and we did not have the right Hayg Oshagan at that time. So we appreciate your leadership in this and your directorship. And thank you for coming out to listen to us brag about what we do. I'm an Arab American. I came into this country in 1976 on December 28 at 5:30 p.m. And I arrived at the Metro Detroit with one-way ticket and with $185 in my pocket and no one to receive me. The story is all over Google. And that shows you that this is a great country that we live in. It used to be much better. It's not the same country that I arrived on December 28, 1976. But we have to work together in order to make it a better country. And so in 1976, when I came in, I had to go to school and get some education. I graduated in electrical engineering. And later on, I became a vice president of an international company. Traveled the world, made lots of money. But I decided in 1984 that I wanted to make a difference rather than just make only money. It was the biggest mistake. And seriously now, so in 1984, on September 7, 1984, thank God, not September 11, I started the Arab American News, and that's almost 40 years ago. I wanted to make sure that I tell our story. No one can tell your story better than you, especially if you are a storyteller. Even though I'm an electrical engineer, I became somehow a good journalist. I was inducted in the Journalism Hall of Fame in 2013, and also I got in 2010 Wayne State University journalism Diversity in Journalism Award. So we've been working together. Thanks to Hayg, now we are communicating with each other. And as you can tell, our world really needs us to talk to each other because of all these problems that we're seeing today and facing, especially in the Middle East and in Ukraine and in the rest of the world. We really need to talk to each other. We need to tell our stories to each other. And that's what we do at New Michigan Media. I'm sure we will get to speak more about these issues as we go on today, but I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague next to me.
Before we start, Iqbal, let me add that the Arab American News is what, 48 pages? What is it?
It used to be 76 before social media, no thanks to the social media.
Yeah, it is, what is it now?
Right now it varies from 28 to 46.
Okay, and it's in English and Arabic, and the website.
You can read it online, arabamericannews.com or in Arabic, sadaalwatan.com. We have two websites.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Osama. Iqbal.
Thank you so much. So we often make jokes when Osama speaks, there is nothing to talk. So he is a very good speaker. After him, I'm not good. So anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Hayg, Professor Hayg Oshagan, for including me as the youngest member of New Michigan Media, which is a very effective network within this Michigan to collaborate the ethnic minority media. So my name is Iqbal Hossain, and I am the editor and publisher of the Bangla Shangbad Newspaper, which is the primary voice of the Michigan Bangladeshi community. A Bangladeshi community is very vibrant in Michigan. We have almost like 100,000 people living in Michigan, and Bangla Shangbad is the primary voice for our community. We started our journey in 2018, April, as an online publication. And after running 1 year, we realized that there is no print newspaper. So we started our print version, which started in 2019, April. And since then, we are serving our community. We are trying to tell our stories. So I think in 2020, Mr. Oshagan reached out to us for a census project, which was really a great experience for our like as a media publisher or as a community member. So we, within the collaboration with NMMM, we were able to organize a big events where we invited almost like 40 to 50 organization, and all the organization president or secretary were invited in that event, and we discussed in like census, importance of census. We created a awareness in our community, especially new immigrant people. They are scared to participate in census. They don't know like importance of census. So we were able to create an awareness and participate a lot of, like thousands of new immigrants or old immigrants to participate in the census. So that was really great experience. I want to especially and officially thanks Mr. Oshagan to include me in this New Michigan Media. And because of New Michigan Media, I was able to actually collaborate with the other ethnic media or the community. So we have like every month like a collaborative meeting where we discuss like different like challenges within the ethnic minority community. So like if I am not part of the New Michigan Media, I would not get inside what's going on in Spanish community or Arabic community. I would know like these two person like my left or right, they have a very like in-depth knowledge to run a newspaper. I got so many tips from them, how they run, how they become successful. So I think it's a great platform for me to be part of this kind of organization and to learn and to proceed my career in the future and learn a lot of like, especially I have been able to learn so many government policies that basically impact ethnic minority. If I am not part of the New Michigan Media Collaborative, I would not know. So thank you, and thank you all for being here to listen to us. I am so great, and I'm so honored to be in front of you guys, and I hope to discuss more. Thank you so much.
Iqbal, thank you. And Iqbal's newspaper is in Bengali. It's a monthly, the others are weeklies, but hopefully soon it'll be weekly as well. And the Arab American community here is the largest of any, outside of any Arab country, is in the Detroit metro area. And the Bangladeshi community is the second largest in America after New York City's community. And so it's a substantial community that is very active and spread from here to Warren, Sterling Heights, and so on. Thank you. Elias?
I'm Elias Gutierrez, and I'm publisher for Latino Press. I founded this paper in 1993, 31 years ago. We publish every week. Our experience in our Hispanic community for many, many years as a challenger. It's every week. New generation coming every 5, 10 years for the US. And then we have a serve our community in different way. And our publication it posts the community, involving in different events and different help for the community. Also, our group New Michigan Media is really, really important, but we include information, we cross information for help our community, and it's so important what Dr. Oshagan do for this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Elias. Elias's paper is in Spanish, and the Latino community here is upwards of 150,000 people, and mostly in Southwest Detroit, where the paper is as well. So thinking about what is worth discussing and talking about, I thought I'd mention a few other things that we've done that the collaboration has allowed us to do, and then ask the panelists about how some of the challenges that we've faced, that we've had to work through and manage. Iqbal mentioned the census. The problem with the census was that minorities just didn't feel that they would participate in anything that the federal or even state government had initiated. There were different reasons for different minorities not to want to participate in the census. And soon the state of Michigan realized that the way to reach and convince people is not for the governor or the mayor to say you should do the census, but for trusted voices in the communities to give that message. And the trusted voices are very often the ethnic media that serve these communities, that have for 40 years or 30 years, where they've had a consistent line of advocacy and trust built up among community members. And so they came to us and said, look, can you organize statewide outreach for the census? It was a very substantial budget from the Michigan Nonprofit Association and the state of Michigan, over $1 million. And we worked with 100 different newspapers across the state with messages in language, in native language, tailored to the fears and concerns that different communities had about participating in anything sponsored by the federal government. And we were able to do this because we understand how to work with each other. And we see the census as part of the advocacy work that we need to do to help our communities. Because at the end, if you undercount the Latino community, you only hurt the Latino community because they don't get the services that they need. Same with the Arab community and same with the Bengali community. Similarly with redistricting, I can tell you that I didn't know much about redistricting. And I can tell you that my partners on the stage didn't know much about the details of redistricting. Arabs, for example, count as white in the census back in 2020. And so they wouldn't even show up as an area for redistricting to take into account. Bengalis were not a checkbox on the census, and so Bengalis showed up as Asian, just broadly speaking. And so we worked together to really understand where our boundaries were as community members, where the Arab community was, where the Bengali community was, and then go and present to the Redistricting Commission where the boundaries should be drawn for the House, Senate, and federal districts. And the Bengali community got the district that they wanted, the Arab community got the district they wanted, and the Latino community got the district that they wanted. This was, again, an aspect of advocacy and work that by working together we're able to accomplish. We got a grant as well from the Redistricting Commission on this to help with the work. But there are challenges to the work that we do, and obviously culture is one of them. Everyone here comes from a different environment, from different traditions. There are language issues as well. There are size issues. Osama's operation has over 10 people working for him, for example. Some of the others are much smaller. Some have been here longer, some are newer. And I'm going to ask Osama, because one of our group members is the Jewish News, and you are all following what's going on in the Middle East today with Israel and Gaza. And yet we are friends on this, on New Michigan Media. We had lunch a month ago at the Detroit Jewish News, for example. And Osama brought a box of baklava with him to our lunch. We
don't know what was in it.
Okay. Osama, why don't you talk a bit about these kinds of challenges that we face as a group?
Well, I mean, every day it's a challenge these days, you know. I think since I started the Arab American News, it has been an uphill battle. I started in 1984, 1985. We had the TWA hijacking, and you're all too young to remember that. And then after that, you know, wars that we were involved in as a country, in the countries that I came from, and we have to deal with them, explain to people what's going on. You know, in fact, I get letters to the editors and emails on a daily basis in my emails. I get a lot of emails from the White House. I don't read. But I read the letters to the editors because it tells me what kind of people that we are as a country. And as I arrived here, I was sitting there looking at my emails. I saw an email coming in from an individual who is saying that maybe he read something that I have said somewhere today to the media. And he's asking me to get the hell out of here because it's his country. So we still are really fighting to find a place, not only as a community, but as communities. I think we have really a problem in this country that we have to address. This is the only country in the world that you come in and you are naturalized and you have the same rights and duties as the one that came way before you and they were born here in this country. And there is no country in the world like this. But do we really act like we are all on the same page? We all have the same privileges and duties? I don't think so. I think that we are still looked at as a community that is on the outside. We struggle every day as Arab Americans, as Latinos, and as Bengalis, as any other communities in order to be included. We're still not included as much as we should be. What's happening today in our country is extremely important. And what I see on campuses all over the United States and even in Europe is very encouraging because I think those are the leaders of the future. They understand better the situation that we are in. And I can tell you that when I started the Arab American News, it wasn't like this. We were not as diverse as we are today. But diversity is really a very important thing to understand because it's an asset, it's not a liability. This country became a great country because it's a diverse nation. And I think what we're doing here at New Michigan Media, we're trying to open a discussion among each other. And then with the major news outlets, because I think Dr. Oshagan did not mention that we also collaborate with the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press and Channel 7, Channel 4, and Fox 2. And we try to bring our issues to the table and we try to listen to other people's issues. And that's how I think our collaborative working, and that's why it survived the 15 years. And it's getting stronger by the day. And that's why foundations see that we are assets to the state and to the country, and they are probably funding us because of that reason, and they're going to hopefully increase their funds. Because as you know, newspapers really are struggling these days. And I think that no one knows as much as we are in the ethnic and minority newspapers because we see this trend of social media where it has some positive aspects to it, but it has lots of negative aspects. You know, like I got a video the other day, and Donald Trump is saying that I've met with Osama Siblani in Dearborn and he is supporting me. I've never met this guy, and I'm certainly not supporting him. But when I saw him, artificial intelligence is really very good, because this is what he's saying. And many people have called me and said, is it true that you're supporting Donald Trump? So I think we live in a world that's very complicated right now. We need ethnic media. We need the collaboration with each other in order to make sure that the right story is being told.
You know, on this note, one of the supporting foundations has been the Ford Foundation over the last 4+ years. And their support has been for helping us improve what we do journalistically. And as Osama said, the issues with social media, and as well with younger generations who are more likely to follow the news on social media platforms other than the newspaper itself. We had a challenge, as all newspapers have had, but we've had one in particular as a group. That is, there was a technology gap in being able to reach out and create the kind of engagement strategy that would let the younger generation of Bengalis and Arab Americans and Latinos check in with these newspapers and what's going on in their communities. And so through that grant, and I'd like Elias to talk a bit about the impact of that, we were able to work together to end with the Ford Foundation to be able to create an engagement, social media engagement strategy to be able to reach out to younger generations of media consumers, news consumers.
Thank you. The support for foundation for our paper have big value. We can do many report, history, or social media job if we don't have this support. It's challenging between a couple years ago how we printing every week, and then we are still printing every week, but include social media and include the support for this foundation make a big difference between this time to now. We have big numbers now in social media. We working in the right direction. Take maybe years, but if we don't have this support for the foundation, we don't do it in this point we have now.
Thank you, Elias. Before we turn to questions, let me just give you an example of the kind of work we've done together on the main points that I began this conversation with. On overcoming the silos, that is, minority communities not knowing of one another. We working together is a real collaboration, but it's also symbolically important to the communities as we are visible together to our communities as a sign of the way in which in this metro area minority communities can work together. We have also on that line had events that we've organized where we've invited. You know, the Arab community has its own events, the Latino community has its own events, the Bengali community has its own events, the Jewish community has its own events, but there is no event that they all come together to. And that's the one that we created through support from the New Economy Initiative, where at Orchestra Hall we had an event where 400 or 500 people from all of the communities came together to discuss the contributions of minorities to Michigan's economy. We also cross-publish editorials, we cross-publish stories, and so you might have a story from the Latino press in the Arab American news, and vice versa, as the communities get to know one another through the collaborative. In terms of being part of the conversation in this region, Osama mentioned we do collaborations with other groups as well. So we've done the DJC, the Detroit Journalism Collaborative, during the bankruptcy, as we worked with the other nonprofits, WDET, Michigan Radio, Detroit Public Television, Bridge Magazine, as we work together to get the stories of what's happening to our communities to be seen, to be visible, to be heard by a population that doesn't generally see minority lives on their news feed unless something terrible happens, unless it's some tragedy that deserves some kind of a news space. And so telling stories of the bankruptcy together from our perspective was one way in which we broadened the conversation of this region to include the stories of minority communities. And we've also worked with WXYZ. We are today in the collaboration with New York and Michigan Solutions Journalism Collaborative. All of these are efforts to get stories out. Currently, we're working with Kresge Foundation on telling stories of resilient neighborhoods to a broad audience of Michigan-wide audience, that there are very positive stories from immigrant and minority communities on how to make life successful in the Detroit region. I've already mentioned the advocacy part with the census and redistricting. There's COVID, and there are many examples of how we've worked to create advocacy for our communities. And in terms of resources and sharing and logistics, all these grants that we have been fortunate to receive have helped financially. We share information, as Iqbal said, on how to, on printers, on drivers, on costs, on strategies, which have helped all of us survive. Newspapers, news media across the board have issues, and minority media have their own particular issues. But the collaborative has been one way in which we have been successful here in Michigan to not only do what we do better, but to be able to keep doing it as well. And so with that, yeah, Osama, and then I'll finish up.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, I want to take this opportunity first to say thank you for all the journalists in America for doing what they're doing. And I think that what we need to do is we need to encourage you, because journalism is not a job, it is a mission. Telling a story, it takes a lot, not only in neutrality in how you present these stories from all different sides, but also in bringing facts to the public. So in my opinion, it's probably one of the most noble professions. That's why I left engineering, because it's boring, and I went to journalism, which does not make money. I made lots of money when I was vice president of a company. And I lost lots of money when I started the newspaper. But now I'm doing very well, don't worry. But I just want you to know that I have made a decision at one point not to make money, but to make a difference. And I think I did. And I will continue to do, and I encourage you to join me and others around the world, and in this country in particular, because this is the leader of the free world, they say. So we need to really be there, telling the stories and educating our communities about what's going on in this world. And I want to thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for giving us this opportunity, and we will continue this discussion at some times in the future.
That's a better ending than my ending, so we'll end on that. Thank you, Osama. Unless Iqbal and Elias, you want to say anything at the end? Or?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So we have a few minutes left. I saw signs over there. For any questions that you might have, that we'd be happy to answer.
Can't believe that you don't have any questions.
Yeah. If no one has any questions, I have one, so.
Okay.
Any takers?
Oh, there's a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing what you're doing with us. And I was curious, you said that you also collaborate with the Detroit News, and I'm wondering how did that happen? How did that come about? What were some of the challenges? Do they run your content? Like, how does that work?
This whole conference has been on collaborations, and collaborations, to me, and we are one, and we've been part of two other ones, and others as well. They break down to me when eventually you have to figure out the money part of it. As long as the foundation is giving the funds, collaborations seem to function. But the trick in figuring out how to really work with like the Detroit News in such a way that we're sharing stories, for example, and somehow we're sharing advertising revenue, somehow we're both getting something financially out of the bargain, that part, I don't think anyone has really figured out how to do this. I was talking to Kevin just yesterday, the managing editor of the Detroit News. And as well with WXYZ, which is the ABC local station here. We can collaborate in terms of sharing stories. We can collaborate in terms of sending two reporters, one from our group, one from theirs, to do a story together, which we've done in the past. But at some point, money gets in it. And resolving that has been a challenge, I think. And I don't have an answer to it. But in terms of simply working together on getting exposure of each other's stories on each other's websites, or working together to write something together, that part we can do. But the other part is, I think, to be sustainable, the other part is critical, and we have not been able to figure out on any of these collaborations the sharing of the, what is at the end essential to survive, the money part of it.
So I just want to add on these notes, like New Michigan Media is like one-stop solution for anybody to reach out. So anyone, any organization who wants to reach out to ethnic minority, it is very difficult for them to reach out to Bangladeshi newspaper or Arabic newspaper or Spanish newspaper. So the New Michigan Media gave the opportunity for all the organization that they can reach out to New Michigan Media, and within a day, New Michigan Media can reach out to all the hundreds outlets, like ethnic minority outlets, and we can collaboratively, spread the word within all Michigans. So that is a great opportunity.
There is something in here that you really need to notice and take a note of. New Michigan Media has the Arab American news and the Jewish news cooperating and collaborating. So that is something that that should be noted, because to the outside world that we're in a war, but in fact we're not. We are not, and we are working together, and that is something that should be noted really. And I commend the people in the Detroit Jewish News for coming to Dearborn and meeting with us without being scared.
And vice versa. Yeah.
Well, I'm never scared to go anywhere.
Here's a question. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. There's been a healthy mistrust in media as of late, the greater media landscape as a whole. Is this something that you're finding with your own readers, or is the fact that you're hyper-local and hyper-focused within your own communities, are you able to avoid a lot of that and maintain the trust of your readership and your audience?
Trust is you can answer the question. How is trust between the paper and your audiences, given the general sense of mistrust, as you mentioned, the fake news kind of narrative that's affected people's trust in media?
I think it's very difficult to really have the approval of the people all the time. Even in the Arab American community, people should be looking at this community as a diverse community. It's not a monolithic community. We're not a community that have one issue or two issues and we're unified on them. We have so many differences in our community. We have so many diverse opinions in our community on many of the issues that we're tackling and facing. And therefore, when the newspaper writes an opinion, or when we write a story, not necessarily we're going to get the stamp of approval for everybody. But what we do? We try to tell the truth. We try to tell the story the way we see it and the way we investigate it. Now, Do we listen to the people who are opposing? Yes, we do. Do we give them a space to respond? Yes, we do. So we try as much as we can to communicate with our community and make sure that when we write a story, we try to write it to reflect the opinion of the people that we're writing the story about. But with limited time and deadlines, and so sometimes it's difficult, as you all know, you're in the same business. So what we have to do is we have to publish the stories and then get the backlash.
I mean, I think the more connected you are to your community, the more trust there is as well. And so these papers and the publishers themselves as individuals are tightly interconnected into their communities. They're well known in their communities. And being hyper-local and focused on local issues, I think are factors that breed greater trust. It doesn't automatically create that, but I think it helps create greater trust than otherwise.
I don't mind, the community criticizing the journalist, but I take an offense when they attack me as a publisher, because most of the time I don't even read, the articles. I am too busy trying to answer questions in the community, and so sometimes they attack the publisher, they attack the paper without, trying to explain why they're angry about what's going on. It's very, very difficult. I mean, God couldn't please people. Sent them 3 prophets, still 75% of the people don't believe in God. So I'm not going to be a God in the Arab American community, and I refuse to be classified as such.
And the New Michigan media is in one other way different than most collaborations, in that we're not collaborating on a specific issue. Most collaborations are topic specific. Newspapers come together, or media organizations come together to cover one thing generally from different perspectives. We're not that kind of collaboration. We are together on a broad number of issues, and what brings us together is that we're all minority news organizations that face similar challenges on issues, broadly speaking, about civil rights, broadly speaking about small businesses, broadly speaking about immigration. And so we are a different kind of collaboration in that aspect as well.
So one thing I want to add, so one of the good things about our collaboration is sharing the resources. So let's say I want to write a story that impact all community, which includes Spanish or Arabic. So for me, it's hard to reach out to those community, who is the community leader, who is the trusted person to take the interview. So I could just make one call to Osama or to Elias that who should I contact for these particular topics. So that collaboration, I think, makes a big difference when you write a story, when you write a news, and that makes more authentic. So if I don't know anybody, I could ask a wrong person, and I could take a wrong interview for a wrong person. So with this collaboration, I would be more authentic, and I would take the right person and right interview.
Okay.
I think we're done. I saw the 1 minute sign.
Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it here. Thank you, Hayg, and fellow panelists. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.